The internet is a terrible place where people feel compelled or even obligated to comment on every single thing that happens there. From one group hating another, to people blaming everyone but themselves for where they are in life, to women hating men, there are days it really wears on me. Especially when people refuse to talk to each other in a manner that isn't childish. Add on to that my wife likes to watch movies, predominantly of the drama genre, and I live in a place so small that even when I'm not watching, I still end up hearing enough to be invested in it. So, in an attempt to escape from whatever murder, sex attack drama that she was choosing to watch the other night, I decided to escape into the fun, action-packed adventure world of this gimmicky 90s Spider-Man comic. Imagine my surprise when the first thing to happen is that Peter Parker shows up to the scene of a crime or a murder so violent has occurred that the cops on the scene question how the human body could possibly contain so much blood. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's start at the beginning. This is one of those comics that I got back in the day while sitting at a laundromat downtown, quote unquote, in Elizabeth, PA. If you don't know Elizabeth, PA, I'm not surprised. It's literally a town with one road in and one road out. Anyway, across from the laundromat was a Rite Aid, and I would go over there to get a few comics so I had something to do while my mom was busy with the sheets. It was on the classic spinner type rack that you would see in the likes of 7-Eleven and other places. Yes, I'm old enough to have experienced that at least a few times. Ask your parents, kids. Side note, I sometimes worry that I was born with the sole purpose of watching things end, but I digress. I always loved these little guys. Getting the comic back to the laundromat, I ripped open the sealed poly bag and pulled out the insert preview of the new Spider-Man the Animated Series show, coming soon to Fox Kids. I would end up having a few of these after a while and frequently stuffed them into my fake Trapper Keeper to copy from while I drew in school. What I was not expecting was the fake animation cell that they included with it. Really more of an overhead transparency. Ask your parents, kids. I'd later discover that there were 4 different ones in 4 different Spider-Man comics. Why they had so many comics for one character, I'll never understand. And I was hooked. I've always loved cartoons, and apparently I've always loved a good gimmick, so I had to have them all, which I still do. I found this one in the dollar box a few months ago at the local shop and grabbed it since I still have the 4 animation cells, but not the comics that came with them. When you get old, you think that you're being responsible by getting rid of things. Usually the things you come to discover you regret getting rid of and then make all attempts at trying to get back, but I digress. But yeah, especially the older I get, the more I love polybag plastic comics with trading cards, 3D glasses, sticker your own covers, and in this case, previews of the forthcoming Spider-Man cartoon show in 1994. As of the time of this writing, I ordered another one of these off of eBay. Show looks great, I'm really looking forward to it. So on to the fun, action-packed adventure murder comic. Hey kids, comics! I'm kidding, I actually really missed the 90s and the comics that existed then. Boop. Inside cover. One of the numerous Marvel trading card sets. This drain at the bottom of the page always confused me. See what I mean when I say I never read the comics and I just flipped through them? It literally says drool here, right across it. I think I still always thought it looked more like a microphone or something. Whatever. First page! A splash page of Spider-Man looking like he's seen better days, and we get our list of comic slaves this time around. Pete wants to go home after a busy night but decides he needs to make money and finds a busy crime scene to take pictures at. Peter gets in as several officers make comments about the horrific nature of the crime. As he started snapping shots hoping he could sell them to the Bugle later, I briefly questioned the presence of detectives Kelly and Sipowicz from NYPD Blue fame, pre-Bobby Simone. Before I remembered that this is New York in 1993. How do comic people never get sued for likeness rights? You guys remember that show? As a kid, I remember it being a big deal for showing butt nudity on network TV. 90s publicity photos always amuse me. Did this make the TV guide? Detectives Kelly and Sipowicz are very forthcoming with the information, saying the victim had a history of seducing and beating women as one cop yells at Peter that there's no pictures allowed. What the f***? Why'd they even let him in there? They say it's likely the work of a serial killer since it's the 3rd one this week, and that the victims have all been men who abuse women. And I'm starting to feel like I've somehow left the comic book and found myself stuck on Twitter again. Our earnest detectives struggle with taking the situation seriously as a blonde woman cop calls them out for potential wife beating of their own.
Right now, I'm your only suspect.
So Peter goes to talk to the only witness whom the cops think is crazy. Her name is Mary Walker, and she just got off a bus from Wisconsin. She has no friends, and I have no idea what she's doing in this place. Parker invites her over for dinner with him and Mary Jane, volunteering his wife to cook dinner for them all, and boom! Glow-in-the-dark X-Men poster! Man, kinda wish I had this. As Spider-Man, he returns home to grab a new costume, but they're all dirty, so he rips up Mary Jane's spandex shorts. He leaves a message on the answering machine, ask your parents, kids, and does a patch job before heading out, having just missed her again. Meanwhile, wherever the it is that Mary actually lives, having just gotten off the bus from Wisconsin, she pitches a fit on the numerous medications she's supposed to be taking, and one gets the impression that she's a lunatic. Baseball cards, more collectible than ever. That sounds desperate. Oh, simpler days. In the interest of equal opportunity and fairness, I will be playing both the part of male and female characters. Thank you. So Crazy Mary finds dot matrix printouts, ask your parents, kids, of stolen police files of men who have committed crimes against women.
How horrible! Oh, this then is the worst. First victim found strangled with her own stockings. Second murdered girl shot with a high-powered rifle while she's out watching television.
Mind you, I'm reading this comic to try to escape both the internet and the murder movies my wife enjoys. Just want to make sure we're all still on the same page here.
And they couldn't prove a thing. He's free! This awful man living happily at 1240 West 76th Street. Why doesn't someone do something about him?
I'm sorry, but that's not how the justice system works. If they couldn't prove anything, there's a what's the word? An extreme possibility that he was innocent. Later. So Mary Jane is setting out expensive takeout. What happened here? Were they just unable to get the face right? I use silhouettes in my comic when I need a break or when I think it looks stylish. Looks like Peter is going to be late again and Mary Jane is going to be forced to have to entertain, but she doesn't seem to mind as she's looking forward to a good girl chat. Is that a thing? Sell it, Mary Jane. More baseball cards! Presumably, there's a knock on the door and in struts Typhoid. Typhoid Mary. Get it? And she starts judging Mary Jane's quote-unquote homemaker life, making fun of her for doing dishes and folding underwear, to which Mary Jane defends her life, saying, Peter does as much as she do. God, it really feels like I'm watching people argue with crazy feminists on Twitter now. Mary Jane lays it out that she has a life and a career, and Typhoid prattles on and on from her perceived pedestal of moral superiority. Typhoid alludes that more is going to happen with Peter and tells Mary Jane that next to her she's as sexy as a nun in a brothel. Based on past accidental web searches, I'm not so sure that that's a bad thing. Then she just wrecks up the place and jumps out the window. Definitely 2021 appropriate. Parker returns home and comforts his wife and tells her about the new vigilante attacking men, but can't figure out why she came to his apartment. Really? He says he has to go after her, and Mary Jane worries about the girl that's coming over and says she might still come. Parker thinks Typhoid wants to kill the only witness to her crime. Mary Jane also worries that in order to catch criminals, that he has to think like the criminals, and that she hopes he won't be like the terrible people he chases. It seems to be a trope with 90s heroes, the threat of becoming the villains themselves, so neither of them has figured it out. Elsewhere, in a bar reminiscent of every goddamn movie that's being made in modern day, with the exception that this comic actually has a thought-out story and a reason for it. Typhoid beats up a bunch of guys in a bar for ogling her and making rude comments. But, you know, my sympathy is lacking when you walk up to them and encourage it with face grabs and lip-tongue licks. Spider-Man is on the scene as two drunks fly through the window. I love this pose. Stop! Typhoid, I presume? Strange, you don't dress like a man-hater.
Who, me? Silly boy, I love men. I need you guys like a pinball machine needs quarters.
That's a Wisconsin accent, right? Yeah? Is that why there's a litter of men in the street?
With more than their hearts broken, sugar.
I thought Rogue was the only one that called people sugar.
I love men that are players, but they just weren't. Maybe you are.
These two panels made me laugh. Somehow she bypassed his spidey sense, and I assume it has something to do with the split personalities. Oh, spoiler. You're right, Typhoid. I don't hit women. Serial killers, that's another story.
Oh god, how could you? It hurts so much. You're just like the rest, a little boy on a power trip.
Oh, don't fall for it, but his spider sense goes wild all of a sudden, and gets crazy as all the trash in the alley, or street, I don't know where we are, starts levitating off the ground. Typhoid pulls a demon face, traps him against the wall, and beats a hasty retreat. I had some of these cards. I really liked them at the time. These might have been the ones that came with the see-through animation cell type bonus cards. Love those. Very appropriate. Spider-Man is questioning if Typhoid is Mary, but decides against it. She's overwhelmed and passes out next to a dumpster. Oh, I totally missed this when I was reading it. That the trash from the dumpster flies over and creates a new costume. I was like, did that just pop out of her? She's got a new 90s Liefeld type personality and she's back on the killing job and heading to her next victim. No idea where the gun came from or where she was hiding the printouts, but she takes aim at Jack Morey. Morey? M-O-R-R-A-Y, who apparently killed a woman while she was watching TV, and the setup is perfect.
Jack, be nimble, Jack, be quick. Jump right over the candlestick. Eye for an eye, bruise for a bruise.
Shot for a shot.
Spider-Man kicks the gun right as it fires, and the TV explodes. Oh, I miss CRT TVs. And Bullpen! Hey look, including a month-long tribute to Jack Kirby. Hype Box. Now on sale. Barbie Fashion, number 42? That was a comic? Comic offers. I'm going to share something with you. I have no idea why, but every time I glance at this guy out of the corner of my eye, I always think it's Stan Lee in some kind of superhero outfit. Batman in a Marvel comic! Hey, Mile High. I order from them on eBay sometimes. They still use this logo. Spider-Man and the Terminator go at it. Spidey calls her Typhoid, and she has no idea what he's talking about. Stuff's flying around again, and she yells at him that the guy was a woman killer, and Spidey says that she's a man killer. What's the difference? Oh, if the last 4 years has taught me anything, Spidey, don't try to talk facts and logic to crazy people. The fight continues as Spidey realizes that this new personality moves like an entirely different person, and responds in totally different ways. He wakes her up and tells her that she has no right to judge men or anyone else. Like a lunatic, she says.
Look, buddy, this is war. Read this. Read about that guy you just saved. He's a killer. All women are political prisoners. The laws of the patriarch.
Oh, here we go.
Do no justice for my gender. Wait for things to change like Cinderella.
Bloody Mary never waits.
Spider tells her that he's sorry if she suffered, but what she's doing is not the answer. 50% off! 50% off! 50%! 50 off. Bloody Mary then changes... Bloody Mary then channels her inner Drew Barrymore and fire starters her way out of the webbing. She's a pyrokinetic, schizophrenic, feminist killer. In other words, a mouthful. Oh, Spidey, you're so getting canceled. He has to deal with the fire and shoots a tracker onto her foot. Cue the trope as Spidey wonders if terrible men deserve Mary killing them, which is just crazy talk. He then reflects on Mary Jane and how lucky he is to have a sane, healthy, kind, loving woman. And God bless I can relate. It's in that moment that it all finally clicks in Spidey's head that all three personalities, including the one he just saw birthed right before his eyes, are the same person. He then freaks out that she knows his address and off he goes for further adventures! Woo! Hey kids, comics! Spider-Man, Stan Lee on TV, Home Shopping Channel to be precise. One of my least favorite shows in the 90s. Crunch and Munch. Does this still exist? This is something my grandparents definitely had. And done. Well, I don't know what to tell you. This was kind of an experiment to see if I could pick up a random Spider-Man comic and not feel lost or disjointed while reading it. And mission accomplished! There was enough character development and enough plot to feel like a satisfying read. I have zero idea how you keep that kind of a pace up from month to month though. On these videos I usually try to find something to take away that I can apply to my own comic work, and here I think I just want to try to apply more techniques of spotting blacks in the individual shots to be more comic booky looking. We'll see if it works. My cartoony sci-fi doesn't typically relate well to traditional comic art, or even artists. And that's it for me this time. Let me know what you guys think of the video in the comments. Are you still into this type of thing? Should I be trying to branch out more? Do you have suggestions for what that would look like? Do you prefer drawing and commentary videos over comic reviews and silly sound effects and voices? If you're not already subscribed, please do so. Ring the bell for notifications. Like and share with your friends. If you want to check out snippets from my own cartoony sci-fi comic series, Smacked in the Head the Animated Series, hopefully crowdfunding soon, there's a link in the description below. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Thanks, bye.
You've got mail.